The West Virginia Mountaineers are traveling to Lubbock, Texas to take on the number 9 ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders on Saturday. The game will air on ESPN Plus, unfortunately. It will tip off at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock p.m. Central Time on Saturday the 22nd. And here to preview the game is none other than Mr. R.C. Maxfield from over at the Back to 12 pod. R.C., how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. We're both sounds like trying to brave the conditions. You a little bit more so
Yep.
than me
Yes, sir.
with actual snow, but hey, basketball's indoors, and that's the best part about it this time of year, and it's
That's right.
starting to heat up.
That's right, man. This is a very intriguing matchup. You and I were kind of talking before we started about you got two of the top players in the conference. You got Javon Small for West Virginia, who's averaging over 18 a game. You've got JT Toppin on your side, on the Texas Tech side, averaging over 17 a game to go along with over about 9 rebounds a game. So darn near a double-double a game. Likely two first-team all-conference players right here. What are your thoughts about that matchup going into this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be super fascinating from a Tech perspective. Who do they put on Small? Because truth be told, Tech obviously, like majority of teams in the country, run man. But it's one of those deals where Tech, for some stretches of the season, has looked really good on the perimeter in terms of defending elite scorers. And I don't throw that term around loosely. Like Javon Small is an elite scorer for y'all. And it's one of those deals where who do you put on him, right? I think if I had to guess early on, they're probably going to just throw as many bodies as possible at him, just throw, different looks and try and make him uncomfortable. But that's really what I'm watching for most from the Tech side, because if you allow Small to take over the game, I don't care if you're playing in Lubbock, you're playing at a neutral site out there in Morgantown, like he has the chance to win the game for you.
Yeah.
It's very similar to JT Toppin, right? I think, at this point, I don't want to say every team has realized what they need to do against JT Toppin, but there's been a method that each team has used really over the past 5 games, and it's worked for some, hasn't worked for others. But I expect West Virginia to double JT Toppin, and then it really comes down to, is Tech going to make the shots? I mean, their loss at TCU, JT did a really good job of getting out of the double team and, with the cross-court pass, and Texas Tech had open threes. They just missed them. And that was really one of the differences in the game, outside of, an opportunity here and there with the costly turnover. But, I mean, it's clear as day. Like, if these two guys are not on the all Big 12 first team, I don't know why we even have a list at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. These two are, I mean, arguably right now, the 2 best players in the Big 12. Like, arguably,
I think that's fair.
That doesn't mean from like a pro perspective, but just strictly right now this season, like, I don't know who you're going to say in terms of impact to their teams have been more beneficial this year in the Big 12 compared to these two guys.
Yeah. You were talking about who's going to guard Small. It'll be interesting to see, do they put Elijah Hawkins on him? I mean,
I hope not.
That will really?
For your sake, you might be hoping so, but I hope not on our side.
Okay. I'm looking here. Again, I'm not the Texas Tech expert. That's why I have you on here. But I see he's averaging 1.6 steals a game.
Yeah,
leading the team. So, is he not a great on-ball defender?
He's active. He's just a little smaller. Right. So he's like 5'10", 5'11". He's active. He's got quick hands. And he's pesky, I guess is probably the best way to describe him out there. But, with Small style of, and really one of the reasons I enjoy watching him, it feels like he can do it from a finesse perspective, but also can be physical when need be, right? Against smaller guards. And I think he would be more physical against Elijah Hawkins. And if that was the case, he has a tendency to get in foul trouble against those more physical guards. So Makes sense. I had to guess, I would guess they throw Chance McMillan at him first.
Okay.
That's what I would guess. But again, Grant McCassin is much smarter than me and when it comes to defense. And, he'll probably make the right call when it's all said and done.
Well, you got McMillan, who's like you see, you talk about the length. He's 6'3". I think Small 6'4", so that might be a better matchup from a length and size standpoint. So that might make sense. But they might, like you said, they might throw different guys at him, and I expect that's probably what will happen. They'll probably throw double teams. Maybe we've seen teams throw triple teams at him sometimes.
Can't blame him.
And Dare. Well, I mean, there have been a lot of games this year that nobody else has stepped up to fill in
Yeah.
the gap on the scoring side. And when that happens, West Virginia normally gets beat. With Tucker DeVries being out, they don't have that second consistent scorer. Now, in the game last night against Cincinnati, we're recording this on Thursday. West Virginia beat Cincinnati last night. We had some, Amani Hansberry stepped up and dropped 17. Jonathan Powell stepped up and made some big shots. We've had a few games where Joe Yesufu stepped up and made some big shots. But in other games, we haven't had that second scoring threat or even third scoring threat. So teams have found a way to kind of slow Javon down from a scoring perspective. Then he has to get his teammates involved. But if they don't help him out, then so it wouldn't surprise me to see them, hard hedge on screens and throw some double teams and maybe even try to trap from off of screens against him.
I think too, as the guy that, is the primary ball handler for you guys in terms of he's the one that makes the offense go, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's a traditional point guard, but it's probably the closest thing to a traditional point guard y'all have. I think he's more of a combo guard, and I mean that as a compliment. But
right.
I would not be surprised if Tech picks him up at half court, or you even see just, a full court pressure look on
Mm-hmm.
him every now and then. Just again, they're going to throw various looks at guys of his caliber. They've done so all year, and they're going to do that against him too. I think from a Tech perspective, I'm very happy this is at the USA. Yeah, very happy because I would not want to play y'all in Morgantown right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a Saturday game, so the crowd would likely be good.
Yep.
Weeknight games, our crowd has been extremely weak, and I'm not afraid to say it. Now, some of that, we've had some terrible weather.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that has been on the weeknight games, and so I think that has impacted attendance. But the Cincinnati game last night at home, the attendance was not good. I mean, there were a lot of empty seats, surprisingly. But the weekend games have been well attended, so this has been on a Saturday. You're probably right. But Lubbock, man, tough place to play. Do they throw the tortillas in basketball? Like
No. They don't do that. They don't do that.
I hope not.
No. That's a safety hazard in football, let alone on a basketball
exactly.
court.
No, talking about slip and fall. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that Tech does there at home is like when there's like a run, you'll hear like swag surf go off, and that is an interesting point of conversation in the Tech fan base, just because some people love it, some people hate it. Like it's truly 50-50 on that front, but it's no. Thank goodness they do not throw tortillas on the basketball floor.
Yeah, I didn't figure they did. I was kind of being funny there, but
yeah,
no. It's definitely going to be. It has the makings of a great game. West Virginia has had some success on the road this year. They've also dropped some games on the road, so it's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. It's going to be a very, very tough matchup. I obviously don't think I would predict you guys to win the game, but I do think West Virginia can keep it close. I really do, because I think they're going to play good defense. They're a top 20 defense nationally. They're going to bring it on that side of the ball, regardless of what their offense looks like typically. So I expect it to be a tough night. For both teams. But back to the Javon Small thing a little bit. They've doing Coach DeVries has been doing a lot more playing him off the ball, actually. And it seems that last night it worked against Cincinnati because it keeps him from getting guys aren't able to, they're not able to throw double teams at him quite as easily with him playing off the ball. And it frees him up to move a little easier, move without the ball, and try to move off of screens and get open a little easier. So it wouldn't surprise me to see some of that against you guys as well. What would you say in your mind? I mean, obviously you guys are ranked 9th in the country, so I'm sure the mood around Lubbock is good. What are realistic expectations right now for Texas Tech in your mind?
In the NCAA tournament?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've never wavered from it. I think this team, when they got JT Toppin in the portal, I said from the jump that they were a Sweet 16 team. And, anybody that knows, like yourself, anybody that knows anything about college basketball, once you get to the Sweet 16, you're a bounce or two away from playing in the Final Four, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that's just how it goes. And so I'm not saying they're going to go to the Final Four, not saying that at all, but they are talented enough to go there. This is the best shooting team Texas Tech has ever had. That's the thing you're going to notice tomorrow is there's snipers out there. Like, cool, you can guard, Elijah Hawkins if you want. He's a good passer, but he's also a 40% career three-point shooter. Chance McMillan, maybe the best shooter in all of college basketball. You got Kerwin Walton, who's the second best shooter in college basketball last season, percentage-wise. Hasn't lived up to that this year. Still a top 25 guy. Got D5 who's shooting the ball better right now. Kevin Overton, like the list goes on and on. I don't want to say they're live and die by the three, but they're going to go out there, and Grant McCassin has said it. They want to shoot 25 plus threes a game.
Interesting.
And a lot of them are going to be open looks just because you're going to see JT Toppin get doubled. And JT Toppin is a really good passer out of the double. The issue is if Texas Tech starts to knock down those open looks that JT Toppin finds, right? Now you can't guard JT Toppin, and he's just going to bully you down low and get to his left hand whenever he wants. So from an expectation standpoint, the offense, legitimately one of the best in the country. I mean, just they're unreal when it comes down to playing their game. Really, the thing that stops them is themselves. There's been a couple of teams that have done a good job at stopping Tech, but I think a pretty good example is they put up 80-plus points at Houston, right? Like,
right. Wow.
That's a sign of a pretty good
impressive.
offense, right? And they didn't even have JT Toppin, if you remember this, right?
Yeah.
That's the game
that was a controversial game, yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah, he intentionally kicked a Houston guy in the nuts or whatever. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
But, it's one of those deals where the defense is the part that's probably, if it's going to be a detriment, like the thing that you pinpoint, it's going to be the defense. And the issue is I think they have a lot of guys that play defense, but Tech doesn't really have a ton of physicality. And that's something that really can be a detriment. It can also be a positive in the sense of their fleet of foot in the front court. They have multiple athletic bigs, JT Toppin. You've got Federico, D5, who's one of the better players in the Big 12 as well. Like those are your three core front court guys that are really agile. They can guard multiple positions. Are they going to be physical? Probably not, but it is one of those deals where they can help you guard on the perimeter and really counteract the fact that 3 is better than 2, right?
Yeah.
And so Tech is making a lot more threes than their opponents are on the other end of the court. So offensively, brilliant. I mean, Jeff Linder was a phenomenal hire. They got the Wyoming head coach. He's a point guard wizard in terms of maybe the best point guard coach in America. And then you've seen the dividends in terms of the offense. I mean, I didn't bring up Anderson yet, and he's a guy that's arguably the best freshman guard in the Big 12 this year. And so they're 8-9 deep if Ameli is healthy, but overall, I mean, I know that was a long-winded answer to your question,
okay.
but yeah, I think they're Sweet 16 good, and once you get to the Sweet 16, anything can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look, you were talking about the Texas Tech likes to shoot the 3 ball. That's actually one of the things West Virginia is strong at is their 3-point defense. However, I'm not sure they've played anybody yet that is going to put up the quantity of threes that Texas Tech is going to, right? So, and West Virginia likes to shoot a 3 in their own right, but Texas Tech shooting at a much higher percentage. You guys are shooting about 38%, which is really good for a team to shoot from 3. West Virginia's right around 33%. So Texas Tech shooting a lot at a higher clip as far as percentage goes, but both teams, I mean, West Virginia typically about 50% of their shots come from 3.
Yeah.
So kind of like you guys, live and die by the 3, right?
Yeah.
If West Virginia makes 9 threes, they typically win. That's kind of their formula.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up the 9 number on your side of things, because if Tech shoots north of 35%, most of the time they're going to win. It's really that simple. And it's funny to look at it just from the standpoint of, I don't think they're quite at 700 yet. They're really close, but they're shooting 38% as a team on damn near 700 attempts.
That's
and
amazing.
That's wild. It's wild. And
yeah.
I was looking at the West Virginia side of things, and I really think that's what this game comes down to. Like, if Tech is shooting closer to what West Virginia typically allows their opponents to shoot from 3, you're going to allow West Virginia to stay in this game. And with a guy like Small there in your backcourt, that's probably playing with fire if you're the Red Raiders. But if the Red Raiders shoot closer to 38%, their season average, right, it might get ugly out in the 806, right? Like, so it's one of those two things where I think that's one of the biggest indicators of how this game goes. And also, does West Virginia shoot better than I believe you said it was 32%, right? If they shoot closer to 35, I know that's only 3% difference, but maybe that's 2 extra threes.
Correct.
Right? and those things can keep you in a basketball game, specifically on the
Yeah.
road. But the 3-point aspect of it is fascinating, just because, again, it's literally the best shooting team outside of, I guess, second best shooting team in the Big 12 behind Houston, even though it's on like 150 less attempts
Yeah.
than
Amazing.
West Virginia, the best defensive team. It's fascinating for sure.
Yeah. Just to give West Virginia fans an idea, he was talking about Texas Tech's offense. Texas Tech is averaging, and keep in mind, they're 3/4 of the way through Big 12 play, basically, if not more.
Yeah.
And they're still averaging 81.8 points a game. That is remarkable. West Virginia's only putting in 69 a game, so 69.2 to be exact. But on the flip side, West Virginia's only given up 64.2 a game. And Texas Tech's given up, but Texas Tech, I mean, they're only giving up 67. So, you know, you were talking about the offense. I don't think Texas Tech's defense is anything to sneeze at either.
No, I would agree with that, but I think just from the standpoint of what's the strength, it's clearly the offense,
Right.
right? So
Right.
like the defense, it'll keep you in games. It'll also be frustrating a couple times, but the offense, I mean, I can only think of about 3 games this year where I was just perplexed at what Tech was doing offensively, and one of them was against TCU, um, and that was mostly because they were just making uncharacteristic turnovers. And that's the thing about Texas Tech too; they don't really turn the ball over. They average about 10 turnovers a game, um, but with how often they're moving the ball and how much they're scoring and what this offense looks like, 10 seems pretty low,
Yeah.
right? And so they do a phenomenal job of making sure that they have opportunities to actually shoot the ball. And like we were just talking about, percentage wise, they're
Yeah.
more often than not going in.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're shooting 48% from the floor overall.
Yeah,
I mean, they're just, and
they're
that
really
worries me.
efficient.
Yeah. And they get a lot of assists on those baskets too.
Hmm.
This is not, to me, this is not a super great matchup for West Virginia in that regard because, you know, I just feel like because West Virginia is going to have to slow the game down offensively. They're going to have to probably get late into the shot clock before they shoot the ball, kind of slow it down, try to keep possession as long as possible, and definitely have to stop you guys in transition. I mean, is Texas Tech, are they a good transition team? Is that something they like to do, get out and run, or are they more of a half court, slow it down? I mean,
Hey,
obviously, it
whatever.
looks like, but based on the points per game, it looks like they're a transition team.
Yeah, I mean, really, whatever you allow them to do, they're fine with almost in a way. Um, but they definitely like to run it. That's Elijah Hawkins' bread and butter as the lead guard
Mm-hmm.
there. You're going to notice he's a guy that, just from an outsider's perspective, and he's a transfer in from Minnesota, started his career at Howard. Smaller guard, like I mentioned earlier, wizard of a passer. He'll also have a couple of passes where you're like, what are you thinking? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll have one or two of those. And if West Virginia can capitalize on it, good for them, right? That'll keep them in the game. But he'll also have 3 or 4 passes where you're just sitting there watching the game and think to yourself, all right, you just got to tip your cap on that one. There's literally nothing I can do. He just kind of beats you. So if you can get him out in transition with one of his running mates, whether that's Chance, D5, JT Toppin, yeah, it could be a long day for West Virginia on that front.
Mm-hmm.
But Texas Tech also doesn't mind taking things slow, really backing down and getting the ball to JT on the block. If you throw the double, like we talked about earlier, they can, pass over the double, have really good shooters open on the other side. Or if you play one-on-one with JT Toppin, you'll be amazed at how often he gets to his left when everyone and their mother knows that he's going left.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I tell you the Toppin, and I hate to keep harping on it, but the Toppin matchup worries me a little bit because one area West Virginia has struggled occasionally is inside. They only have really one true big that plays minutes, and that's Eduardo Andre.
Mhm.
And he's not super physical, I guess, for lack of a better term. He's
He
really good
reminds
at,
me of Federico, by the way,
yeah,
who we have. He
yeah.
kind of reminds me of that for
I mean,
sure.
he's not going. He doesn't shoot the ball much. He can score it around the rim. He can block shots, get you some rebounds occasionally. But he's more of a, and he's a really good passer, by the way, from the middle, from that center spot. But he has had some struggles at times this year with really physical guys who have a physical inside presence. So I'm worried a little bit about Toppin there. We've got Amani Hansberry who starts at that position, who's a similar size as Toppin. But again, I'm not sure if he's a great defensive matchup for Toppin. So if I'm Texas Tech, I'm feeding JT Toppin as much as I can down low, letting him do his work. Well, it'll be interesting to see who West Virginia puts on him. They might switch Sincere Harris down on him because he's our best on-ball defender. He's technically a guard, but I think he has the length to guard him. And he's about 6'6" or so. So I think he's a decent matchup there with his length. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there.
Out of your bigs, because you would know better than me, are any of them good in terms of guarding on the perimeter?
Hansberry's not bad at guarding on the perimeter. Hansberry's really more of a true stretch four.
Okay.
But he's been forced to play the 5 out of necessity because West Virginia doesn't have enough bigs. But he's not really what he's known for. He's more of a rebounder and shooter.
Okay.
But he can't. I mean, he's not a bad defender necessarily, but he's not elite by any stretch. Sincere Harris is our best on-ball defender overall. Javon Small's not bad in his own right, but Sincere Harris does a great job guarding on the perimeter. But they typically put him on a guard.
Okay.
But he can guard about any position. So because, like I said, he's extremely long. So it'll be interesting to see who they match up against JT in this game.
Yeah, because JT can go out on the perimeter too. I'm not acting like he's,
Right.
a fantastic 3-point shooter, but he'll take one or two to make you respect it, and then he can beat you off the dribble and get to his left hand.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's the best player. I mean, Tech has had arguably since Jarrett Culver. I mean, he's unreal. Just how good he is, and I don't wish those film studies on any team playing Texas Tech, just like I don't wish the film study on Texas Tech trying to figure out how they're going to guard small. I don't wish that on anybody. Like, there's just certain guys in the conference where I'm like, yeah, good luck. I don't know if you got anything. Hopefully he misses the shot because you're probably not going to impact it,
Right. Yeah.
It's that kind of deal.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. I said Sincere Harris was 6'6". He's actually only 6'4".
Okay.
So maybe they don't go that route. I don't know. It'll be anxious. I'll be anxious to see because I'm just not sure that our other two bigs are going to be able to match up with him. I'll be honest with you.
The interesting part for Tech too is like JT is clearly the best player, right? So if you try and take JT out, cool. Easier said than done, obviously, just like trying to take Small out of the game, right? But you've got D5, Darrion Williams, who's another all Big 12 type player.
Averaging 15 a game, by the way.
Stud, gonna probably get drafted. And then maybe the most under the radar, just like, holy crap, this guy's having a really good season in college basketball, and Chance McMillan. Chance McMillan is, I was looking over on Bart Torvik, and Small and Chance McMillan are graded out as the most impactful offensive players in the Big 12 this season. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so, and that takes into account efficiency, just how often you have the ball in your hands, all these things, right? So it's not just a one guy for Texas Tech in the sense of, okay, take away JT. All right, we'll just back you down with D5 on the other side. Okay, you're trying to take away the inside. All right, we'll just play pick and roll basketball and shoot threes while Chance McMillan runs like a wild child on the outside. Or, okay, if somehow you take away all three of those guys, you still have a star freshman in Christian Anderson who has been phenomenal. Really a godsend for Texas Tech in the sense of last guy added to the roster was originally committed to Michigan. Juwan Howard got fired. He reopened his commitment. Texas Tech had a spot open, and now he looks to be not only the point guard of the present, but the future as well, and a really, really good one. So, again, the offense isn't going to be anything that worries me from – and that's not a knock on West Virginia. It's just I'm not really worried about the offense against any team at this point. It's more so, can Texas Tech get stops? Can they rebound? And if they do rebound, okay, it's going to be a long, long night at the office for the opposing team. But as you could see against TCU, when Texas Tech loses the rebounding battle, specifically the offensive rebounding battle, because when's the best time to shoot a three? Off of an offensive rebound. And so Texas Tech, as we talked about earlier, nearly shoots 40%. if they don't win the offensive rebounding battle, it could be a battle out in West Texas for sure.
Well, good news for you. West Virginia is one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the country.
I just pulled up the
Or one of the
stats.
worst. Let me back up a minute. They're one of the worst teams in the country at allowing opponents to get offensive
Yeah,
rebounds.
I just actually pulled up those stats and I just saw that. That was not me trying to rub it in. I
No, I
swear.
know. When you said that, I was like, crap. It makes me even less confident now because that is the areas where Texas Tech. It sounds to me like the areas where Texas Tech has a tendency to struggle at times, or do have maybe if they do have a few weaknesses. I'm not sure that's an area West Virginia will be able to exploit because they're weak in that
Yeah.
area as well. Other than maybe the 3-point shooting, maybe. And
No,
again,
that's
because
gonna be
it's at
fun.
home, I look for you, because it is at home in Texas Tech. I look for you guys to shoot the ball well. And you talked about you're not worried about Texas Tech's offense, even though West Virginia is good defensively. They probably haven't played anybody as good as Texas Tech, maybe with the exception of Houston,
Yeah.
or Iowa State. I don't know. I don't know how good, but again, I don't know those teams. I think those teams are more known for their defense versus their offense. So it'll be interesting to see if West Virginia can do anything at all to kind of slow down. Again, back to my key earlier, I think West Virginia needs to slow the game down as much as they can.
Agreed.
Kind of like in football, where they would like to run the football and keep the ball away from your opponent. In basketball, you do that by running your half court offense, holding on to the ball, not rushing shots, and keeping the ball late into the shot clock, waiting for a good shot, hopefully.
Yeah.
And let's talk about free throw shooting a minute because that's an area that's really killed West Virginia this year.
Sure.
West Virginia and some of this is officiating and some of it's not. West Virginia's had terrible luck with whistles this year, man. There have been multiple games where West Virginia's opponent has made more free throws than West Virginia has shot. Does Texas Tech get to the line a lot typically?
Yes and no. Reason I say that is because last game you literally just described what happened to Texas Tech, where TCU shot 22 free throws, I believe,
Yeah.
and I mean they made more than Texas Tech attempted in the
Yeah.
game. So, yeah, Texas Tech is aggressive. It's interesting in the standpoint of they have a really good free throw percentage. I know that they're top 5 in the Big 12. I forget exactly what it is. I want to say it's around like 76, 77, somewhere in that range percent. They get to the line and they capitalize quite often. They've got, Elijah Hawkins, Chance McMillan, Kerwin Walton, Kevin Overton, multiple guys that shoot 80+% from the free throw line. The thing is with Tech, if you're going to really force their hand. And this is one thing I'm very interested to see because a team hasn't done it yet. But I think if a team were to do it, maybe West Virginia would, in the sense that you were talking about your bigs and everything. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Federico,
Mm-hmm.
he's just piss poor at shooting free throws. I mean, he's bad. And so I wonder if the game is close and he's on the floor, does West Virginia just say, okay, we're going to hack him, right? In that regard. Nobody's done it yet, but it would be interesting to see. But from the standpoint of getting and taking free throws, I think Texas Tech doesn't take a ton of free throws, but they make a high percentage of them, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with that is, RC, I'm not sure West Virginia will be, because West Virginia typically, by the time they get down to towards the end of a game, their bigs normally have 4 fouls.
Yeah,
And,
that might be an issue.
we're playing 7 or 8, it's a 7-8 man rotation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And foul trouble can be an issue when you're only playing, and especially when you only have two true bigs. I mean, they do have a third guy, Harris Elizovich, that can come in and play occasionally, but he doesn't play very much at all. Only in emergency situations, basically. So it's not probably not an ideal scenario for West Virginia to be able to do that because of, like I said, they get in foul trouble a lot. And you talked about Texas Tech's free throw percentage. That doesn't bode well for West Virginia. But even heck, West Virginia's had 3 games this year where they played, and I think they were maybe even been consecutive games, but definitely close together, where they played the 3 worst free throw shooting teams in the Big 12. And every time, all 3 times, that team shot over 80% from the free throw line.
I knew exactly what you were about to say. It feels like that's how it is.
It
With
is the worst luck I've ever seen. I mean,
yeah,
it's unbelievable, man.
That's how I feel about Tech when they play anybody and shooting threes.
Yes,
So
that
I'm
too.
pulling it. I'm pulling it up. You guys shoot. You said 32.8%.
Yep. Yep.
I promise you, I'm literally just mentally preparing myself for about 12:05 Central Time, West Virginia to make their first three threes. I'm ready for it mentally.
Yeah.
I know it's going to happen. Okay, it happens every time. Like I don't know if you watched the Arizona State game where it felt like the NBA All-Star game in terms of scoring in the Big 12 that night.
Yeah.
Credit to Arizona State. I mean, they shot the lights out of it. But Texas Tech was right there on a lot of them. And it's just like, okay, what's going on here? Like, how does this happen every single game where
Mhm.
there's just one guy that has a career night? Like Taz White at TCU, he had made 3 threes in his career, Couz, twice. Of course he does it against Texas Tech. And guess how many points they win by?
3.
3. Every time it
Yeah.
happens. And another example, I forget the guy's name on Arizona State, and credit to them. Honestly, Arizona State should have won that game. I don't know how Texas Tech won. Um, but they had a guy that was averaging 4 points per game. He scored 22 and made his first 6 shots. He had more field goals made than points averaged. And half of them were contested. I
Yeah.
was like, dude, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Did you happen to catch the end of the Cincinnati West Virginia game last night?
I did not. No.
West Virginia was up by. We held on to win the game by 3. West Virginia was up 9 with 8 seconds left in the game. Won by 3, man. Guy from Cincinnati comes down, chunks up a prayer 3-pointer from almost the logo, and it banks in. Okay. West Virginia makes a terrible inbound throw. Cincinnati intercepts it. Same guy ends up with it, shoots an off-balance 3, and it goes in. So within like 2 seconds, he makes 2 threes in a row. Like, just insane.
You feel my pain then. You feel my pain.
Yeah. And then they end up turning it over again on the next inbound throw. It goes out of bounds back to Texas Tech. Unfortunately, Texas Tech missed a wide open 3 at that at the buzzer. But dude, I'm like, I mean, Darren DeVries was even joking about it. He was like, he gets to the point where you're like, well, I know this is going in.
No, seriously.
When Cincinnati shot the shot, he was like, well, that's probably going to go in because everything was going wrong at that point in time, right?
Yep.
It was like nothing was going right during that stretch. But I swear I make jokes sometimes, and sometimes I'm half serious, depending on my mood. But sometimes I think West Virginia's cursed, man. It's like, my God.
Yeah, Texas Tech might be too. It feels like every game. Oh, I don't know who y'all's like. I don't want to say worst, but guy that you think, okay, I don't want him shooting a 3. Congratulations, he's making at least 2 or 3 against Texas Tech on Saturday. I
Well,
promise.
that means Sincere Harris is going to make 2 threes against y'all.
Congratulations, he's going to get 6 points for you. I promise. I don't know how it continuously happens. And the thing is, in past years, it was like we played the no middle defense. If you're familiar with that, okay, that leaves some guys open on the corners. They're going to have open shots, right? They no longer play the no middle defense. And so does Texas Tech give up wide open looks? Yeah, they're a college team. Every team does, right? But some of these shots that these guys make, I'm just like, okay, bro, put it in a game of horse and just give the letter to the opposing team. This is nuts. What are we doing here? And I fully expect West Virginia to have 3 or 4 of those shots where I'm just like, the Mountaineers have no business being in this game on Saturday, but they're here because it seems like every time somebody comes to Lubbock, there's just that one guy that pops off. And
Yeah. Well,
that's the thing too. I think from a West Virginia standpoint, if y'all come out and hit first in terms of y'all land that first punch early on, let's just say y'all get up like 10-4, 12-4, something like that. I think y'all are going to be in the game the whole time. Texas Tech does not respond well to that. They like drag their feet. They play down to their competition sometimes, even at home. And if West Virginia comes out and punches first, game on at that point.
Yeah. West Virginia's done that a few times too this year. And of course, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like we're an elite team or anything. But I mean, there have been several games where West Virginia was clearly the better team, but they let a team hang around, and boom, you lose the game. Right.
Yep.
Or West Virginia will go through scoring stretches in games, almost every game. they will have at least one stretch of about 5 to 6 minutes where they don't score a basket. It happens almost every game, at least once, sometimes multiple times a game.
Yeah.
But thankfully, their defense can keep them in it typically. But I mean, it's like, my gosh, this is maddening watching this team sometimes play offense. But when you put it as a fan, I sit back and have to put things in perspective, right? We have an entirely new roster, entirely new coaching staff. The guy who was supposed to be our best player on the team, definitely our best shooter on the team, is out, right? The guy who was probably, was picked to be a potential all Big 12 guy in Tucker DeVries. He's been out almost the entire season throughout all of Big 12 play. So for them to even be on the bubble right now for the NCAA tournament is pretty remarkable, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah, for real. Yeah, no, I think just from afar, and obviously you watch a lot more West Virginia than I do, but just like watching it in the spurts that I do, I'm like, I don't know how y'all are here. Just from the perspective of like, it's not a knock on the talent or anything. It's just, it's incredibly difficult to lose your best player and then still find a way to win basketball games in college basketball, right? Like that takes a lot of shifting of pieces around and putting guys in roles that they didn't come to West Virginia to
Yeah,
play.
exactly.
And no, shout out to Coach DeVries. I mean, just a phenomenal job. I mean, it was a great hire when you got him. I think everybody that was non-biased knew that. It was like, oh, well, crap, West Virginia is going to be good again. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, but also hope you lose on Saturday. You know what I mean?
I do get it. I
But
do. Yeah.
yeah, like it's just, it was like, okay. And then once you lose Tucker, it's like, all right, like they're probably going to be down there with like, I don't want to say Colorado because that's just blatantly disrespectful, but y'all bounce back and y'all are firmly on the bubble. Like, I mean, even if y'all lose at Texas Tech on Saturday, like y'all are still firmly in the bubble conversation.
Yeah.
Every opportunity is in front of you to get into the tournament. And, minimum, it feels like y'all should at least be playing in Dayton if you win, 3 of these last 5 games y'all have in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, right now we're sitting with 16 wins. I think 18 might get us in. 19 definitely gets us in. It's kind of because of the non-con wins we have on our resume.
Depending on who you beat too. Like if you beat Tech, that'll make it easier. You only got to win one more game probably to get in. But if you lose to Tech, like, all right, now it gets a little bit more difficult.
I feel like if we can finish 500 in league play and finish with 19, I think that would put us at 19 wins on the year. I think, if my math's correct, I think that gets us in. I really do. Look, I don't care if we're an 11 seed, an 8 seed. I just want in the friggin' tournament, man.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. That's it. Like I when I first went to Tech, they were garbage, and I was jealous of everybody that got to go into the tournament. I mean, y'all were one of those teams that were a powerhouse at that point. And now it's like Tech is one of those teams we're not going to call them a powerhouse by any stretch of the imagination, but they're continuously making the tournament.
Yep.
And it's like, you just want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like it's so much more fun to have your team involved in my opinion, the greatest tournament in the world. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm excited about this game on Saturday too. I mean, Texas Tech has got to respond. Like I said, they lost to TCU. They were very uncharacteristic in a lot of their mistakes. But West Virginia presents a lot of the same issues that TCU did. It's just so happens to be out in the 806, and hopefully some home cooking happens for the Red Raiders.
Right. Real quick, let's do a score prediction, and I'll let you out. I'll let you out of here. What's your prediction for the game?
Yeah, I don't think we have odds yet, right? At the time of this recording, I think Tech will probably be like, this is a guess, so you guys can roast me in the comments.
The ESPN matchup predictor's out if you want that. It's ESPN has you guys at an 82.9% chance to win, and West Virginia at 17.1%.
Okay. The number that came to my mind first in terms of odds for this game was 7.5. Tech being favored, maybe 6.5 in that range. I could be off, but I think Texas Tech responds, especially at home, and I think they desperately need to, because you got to get this win if you're Texas Tech from the standpoint of next week. Good luck. You play Houston on Big Monday. They're going to be seeking revenge after what you did to them at their place about a month ago. And then you go to Allen Fieldhouse, and even if Kansas doesn't look good right now, it's still very difficult to play in Allen Fieldhouse. So you got to get this win if you're Texas Tech. I think Grant McCasland and crew do so. And I'm going to go 78-67 Texas Tech.
It's not bad, actually.
Yeah.
So 11-point win, 78-67. I'm going to give West Virginia defense a little bit more credit. I'm going to go Texas Tech 74, West Virginia 66.
Okay, I can get behind that. Just a barely cover for Texas Tech. You know what they
Yeah.
say in this hypothetical line.
Right.
Great teams
Yep.
cover.
Yep. 74-66 is where I'm going. It's a funny thing about by the way, the Cincinnati game. You know what the spread on that game was? 3.5.
Of course it was. Of course
So
it was.
if you had West Virginia plus minus 3.5, you lost a ton of money in about 9, and you lost a lot of money in like 2 seconds.
Hey, there's a reason Vegas got those tall buildings, man. I'm telling you, there's a reason.
Oh man, it was crazy. It even made the bad beats. Scott Van Pelt bad beats last night on the
Yeah,
ESPN.
those are the worst. That's happened to Tech this year too, in terms of a game or two where it's like,
Yeah,
oh, you're about to cover, and then just a random shot at the end. You're just
yeah.
like, what are we doing here? What
Yeah.
was the point of that?
But look, man, hey, us, about with West Virginia being right now on sort of on the bubble. I mean, as of today, they're in, but I mean, they're
Mhm.
like a 9-10 seed range, so they're basically
Yeah,
on the bubble. They just need to win, man. At the end of the day, just win the games and get in. That's kind of where I'm at as a fan.
agreed. Yeah, no, I mean, and again, if y'all beat Tech in Lubbock, I don't think it's a conversation of y'all being on the bubble. It's more so, what seed are we going to be
Mhm. Yeah,
at that point, right? Like this is I don't want to say program defining win, but maybe a season defining win in the sense that you get to for sure go on to that level that you wanted to
yeah,
play, which is the NCAA tournament.
yeah. Hopefully so. Because some of I mean, even though they have some great wins, some of the wins earlier in the year don't look as good now. Like Gonzaga, they're not as good as we thought they were going to be. Kansas is not as good as we thought they were going to
Yeah,
be. Uh, so, but I mean, they're still good wins. Don't get me wrong; they're quad one wins, but they probably don't look as good in the eyes of the committee as they did at the time.
for
Uh,
sure.
Real quick, RC, where can everybody find you when you work, and how can they interact with you, man?
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter/X at RCMB323, and then here on YouTube over on the Back to 12 podcast channel, daily videos on Tech football, men's basketball, all sorts of stuff. Just ton of great people over there in the Back to 12 squad. So yeah, Back to 12 podcast.
Well, thank you for jumping on the show with me, man, and we'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, we'll do one again soon after a Texas Tech victory, right?
Maybe so. Hopefully,
No, I had to get a
hopefully
little
I can.
trash in there.
That's all right. Hey, hopefully I can come on with my coonskin cap that I wear anytime there's a really special moment or a big win. I always throw on the coonskin cap to celebrate. So
Well, this would
anyway,
be a big one. That's for
it would
sure.
be top 10 win on the road. Absolutely,
Yeah,
we'll take it.
absolutely.
All right. Well, RC, thanks again, brother, and everybody, please make sure you hit the like button on here if you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel here at Hoops from the Hills. Thanks for your support. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf and Q Country Roads.